and by authorities. Here with the very latest, former special agent for the FBI, Nicole Parker, and national law enforcement counterterrorism analyst Aaron Cohn. Thank you both. Nicole, start with you. Obviously, a result of really good policing. I know last night in the lead up to the show that we had, which ended up being an interview with the new Speaker of the House, there was hope. They thought they might have identified an area where he was, but simultaneously, we now know in retrospect that they were looking at where his car had been found near a boat that apparently he had owned, and they spent a lot of time and they were able to confirm his death today. In the end, I think great policing. Could anything have been done, perhaps, in retrospect, to prevent something like this? Or when you're dealing with mentally ill people and people that are this sick, it's something that we just have to anticipate can happen occasionally, and we're stuck living with this?
You know, Sean, having responded to several mass shooting incidents, it's absolutely tragic. And there is a pattern that those that, conduct these awful shootings do have many times a history of mental health issues. You want to make sure that you're not saying those with mental health issues end up doing things like that. That is not the proper correlation. But there's also another important part of this. Many individuals who end up being mass shooters do have suicidal ideation before they go out and conduct the shooting. And so the fact that this individual, from what I understand, has committed suicide and was found in a nearby forest area. Again, do not quote me on the facts at this point. They have not been confirmed by myself, but that is what I understand. I am not shocked that he committed suicide. He had gone out, he had killed 18 individuals, and law enforcement, they were working on determining what was his motive. Was he, was there a domestic dispute? Was there someone that he was going after in particular? But obviously he accomplished what he hoped to, which is disgusting and evil. And we now have 18 individuals who will no longer be able to be with their loved ones and live out their lives. But I am so grateful for the efforts of law enforcement that they did not give up and that they have found this individual, and that I was hoping that he would be found alive because I personally wanted justice to be served. But you know what? He committed suicide. He is no longer a threat to that community. They have been hunkering down for several days now, and now they can know that there is no longer a threat to their community.
We can now confirm that Robert Card, the suspect in the shooting in Lewistown, Maine, has been found dead. We know from ABC News and multiple law enforcement sources have said that Card died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Aaron, feel free to comment on this and go back to our other top story, which is the ground incursion now going on that has begun in Israel against Hamas.
Well, Sean, first, I think it's hats off to Colonel Bill Ross. That's the head of the Maine State Police. I can tell you from training law enforcement the last 20 years, state troopers don't play around. They've got a great academy throughout the country. They're very aggressive when it comes to policing. And I think the colonel did it right here. I think he was partnered up correctly with the other municipalities, counties, and the FBI to be able to really take this hunt as quickly as possible to be able to get this guy off the streets. As far as the response to the active shooter, it's tricky. It's always difficult responding to these because it's typically patrol and maybe a school resource officer like we saw in Uvalde. That response didn't turn out very well. The training wasn't there. So it really comes down to the training of the officers, the alert system, which is a federal mandated training system that's moderated through POST, which is the Police Officer Standards and Training. These are a certain amount of training that police officers need a year. That alert system allows officers to be able to go into structures, to be able to go into schools, go into malls, buildings, to be able to conduct clears in a methodical and safe way to put shots straight on an active shooter. It's tricky because for every second you waste when somebody's opening fire, another innocent person is killed. And so I think the colonel, I think Bill Ross did it correct. I think he partnered up quickly. He's got a very extensive background. He was in the operations portion for a good chunk of his career. And I think the FBI and everybody involved did what they could to get to this guy quickly. We learned from previous active shooters. The country's getting much better at it. And I knew that it was just a matter of a couple of days until this guy turned up. And they were doing it right. They were going house to house. They were exercising lead Sean really quickly. Like I told you last night, they get up on those structures. You've got tactical units who are dialed in these days. They're doing what's called slow and deliberate clears if there's no hostages. And, getting through those buildings to exercise those leads safely, to be able to get this guy and bring him in alive. And I think it was done right. The fact that he showed up with a self-inflicted gunshot wound and committed suicide certainly fits the profile of these active shooters. And so I'm just glad, the situation is over, and that I'm glad Maine can come out, and I'm glad people can, get back to normal life. And I think hats off to the law enforcement agencies. I think they moved quickly on this one.
They really did. It's amazing. We often talk on this program and point out the left's very harsh rhetoric against our military. Seeing the importance of our military and Israel's military tonight, it certainly gives you a different perspective. The same with law enforcement that have been called such harsh names by the left in this country and attacked. And the defund, dismantle, no bail law crowd is out there. But when something happens like what had happened in Maine, and they're out there fighting and looking and searching and protecting, we kind of understand their importance a little bit more. It brings it into a much deeper focus. Anyway, thank you both. Nicole, thank you. Aaron, thank you. Coming up,